Hey, happy Friday. You are listening to the She Heals Radio Show on Awesome God Radio. I'm your host, Whitney J. It is Friday, y'all, April 24th, 2020. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you are tuning in on the Awesome God Radio app, thank you so much. If you haven't already, download the free Awesome God Radio. Amazing shows, amazing sermons, amazing music. You do not want to miss it. Listen, Awesome God Radio is the place to be. When I tell you there are some things that are going down at Awesome God Radio, you do not want to miss it. We are moving and grooving, y'all. If you are tuning in on Facebook Live or on YouTube, thank you so much for tuning in. Hit the like button, leave us a comment, and share it to your page. I hope that you guys have had a great week. I hope that you have been feeling, this quarantine life is not for the weak, right? But I hope that you're feeling encouraged and empowered. And I pray that you are safe and healthy. And listen, y'all, there is so much going on right now, right? And there are so many different, ways that this is impacting us. And honestly, it's impacting us in different ways every day. So for some people, it's hard. For some people, they're resting and regrouping. Some people are on the battlefield. They are out and they are actively working and have to go out in this. And some people are home and have been home for weeks. Some people are alone. Some people have a lot of people in their house. There's a lot of different factors. And one of the things that I'm noticing that it's a lot of comparing going on. And one of the things that I would love to share with our listeners is stop comparing. You win no prize for having the worst case scenario, or for having it the hardest. This is hard for everybody. And while, yes, there are some circumstances that are really, really challenging for those that are working and not getting paid. That's really challenging for those that have to go out and work, during this time. It's extremely challenging, but it doesn't help us in any way if we're trying to compare who has it worse. I was talking to a girlfriend actually just a little earlier this evening, and we were talking about, we're both teachers, both special education teachers, and we both have our families. And we were talking about how difficult it is trying to manage the schedules of making sure our kids are checking in with their teachers and getting their work done on time. And then us making sure we are teaching when we're supposed to be and checking in with our kids and, meetings and all of that. And it's a lot. It's a lot to take in. And we're trying to manage something so new, without a whole lot of preparation. And so, it's frustrating, right? And, we were talking and I said, you know what? But we're still blessed. We have jobs that we're still getting paid. You know what I mean? We still have our benefits while we're working from home. Yes. Is it challenging trying to manage kids and dogs and jobs and all those things? Yes. But we're so thankful. We are safe in our homes. We have enough technology to be able to maneuver these things. We have food in our refrigerators. We, have electricity and clean water. And so we just started naming the things that we were thankful for, because it's so easy to complain. It's so easy to get caught up in this is, what's not happening right. And this is what's frustrating to me, and to compare ourselves to other people. But we got to find what we're thankful for now. And so my She Heals Inspiration segment is going to be around grasping the moment. If you're like me, you've probably said to yourself a million times, I can't wait until this is over. I know for me, I have said that hundreds of times. I cannot wait until this coronavirus situation is over. I cannot wait until this, storm that I'm in is over. And so I spend all of my time and all of my energy focused on the end, right? Focused on what I want to happen in the end. So I want this to, coronavirus to be gone. I want no one to have it again. I want businesses to be able to open back up. I want to be able to go back outside. I want school to be able to go back. I have all these things that I want. And so I spent all my energy focused on the end, right? But when you're focused on the end, or some of us are focused on the past. So we're talking about what used to happen. And I used to be able to go here and I used to be able to do that. And that's where all of our focus is the past. If you're focused on the past or you're focused on the future, guess what you're missing? The present. God has so much that he wants to do and share and instill in us in the present. This is the time we should be paying attention the most. So yes, the virus will end when it's going to end. Do we know when it's going to end? No. Do we know how it's going to end? No. Do we know all the particulars of what's going to happen? And no, we don't. But it's going to end at some point. But right now, God is trying to speak to us right now. God is shifting and changing things right now. And if we are so focused on what is to come, we are going to miss the present. And here's the thing, if you miss the present, God has a way of bringing something back. So have you ever been through something and you're like, God, if you get me through this, I'm going to double my tithes. I'm going to serve you more. And all you're focused on is getting through, but you miss the lesson. So then what happens? You get through that situation, but then sometime later, you find yourself right back in a similar situation. Why? Because you didn't learn the lesson. You didn't get the revelation you were supposed to get because you were focused on the end, or you were focused on the end result. So my encouragement to you today is stay present. Because God can be trying to speak to you right now. There can be things that he's trying to clean up and clear up in your life right now. So even though, yes, we all don't want to deal with this virus, and this virus is extremely serious, people are losing their lives. But could you imagine that God could be using this to change some things in you? I know for me, he has used this time, these weeks that I've been home, to reveal a lot about me to myself. I was working with a finance counselor yesterday, and we were going through my bank statements, and we were going through what I spend my money on. And I was just like, oh my goodness, the revelation of how much I spend on food was astronomical. It was embarrassing how much money I spend on food, but it gave me, that start to say, I need to reevaluate this situation. So I need to actually, while I'm home, right, while I have some time that I'm not out and I'm saving on gas because I'm not going anywhere, let me take a time and redo my budget. Let me look at how much money am I bringing in? What are my bills? What are the, things that I'm spending my money on? Let me be fruitful. Let me be not fruitful, but let me be a good steward of my finances while I'm sitting at home. This is a great time. Let me look at how much food we are actually eating. Let me reevaluate the grocery bill and all of those things to come to, a better budget so that I can be a better steward of my finances. So I'm staying present in the moment. I'm looking at my family, when before this virus happened, we were always together, but not connected. So we could be in the house and one is on this floor, the other's on that floor, the other's in the basement. We're all doing our own things, present in the house physically, but not connected in the house. And so now I'm like, how can we connect as a family? My older son, he started cooking and, he was cooking and like, okay, let's make some time. We just were talking about making time to play games and making time to do something different. We're learning to be present in the moment. What can I get now? How can I reevaluate some things and live better? Because we know the virus is going to end. We're not going to be in the house for the rest of our lives. But while we're here, Lord, what is it that you want me to learn now? What is it that you're trying to teach me now? Is there some people I need to reconnect with? Are there some people I need to disconnect from? Show me, God, while I'm here, so that when this is all over, I'm not the same. It would be awful to go through this worldwide crisis and come out of it exactly the same. Come out of it not wiser, not stronger, not smarter, not more disciplined. That would be a disservice. Use this time wisely. This is the time to connect with God and say, what do you want me to do? Lord, is this the time that I'm supposed to rest? I remember complaining to coworkers. The week we actually closed, I was at work after school one day, and one of my coworkers came to me and she was just like, are you okay? Because you don't seem like yourself. And I started talking to her and I said, I am frustrated. And I just started sharing the things that I was frustrated about and that I felt drained, and I had so much going on at work and I had a whole lot going on at home and all of these things. And I kept saying, I want rest. And then what happened? School closed. And for the first 2 weeks, I was not required to work. And so I took the time to rest. I've been asking for this time. I've been asking for more time with my children. I've been asking God to change some things in me and to mature me and to help me to become more disciplined. And he's now given me an opportunity to exercise those things he has taught me. So stay present and make sure that you are paying attention to what God is saying right now. You do not want to come out of this exactly the same way you came in. You don't want to come out of it still, we should all be saving money, right? Because our lifestyle hopefully has changed to some degree. We should all be spending more time with loved ones and treasuring the time that we have, even if that is a phone call or a text message or a Zoom. We should all have something. We should all just be thankful that I have a place to stay. I have food to eat. I'm not sick. I'm breathing on my own today. So we should be making the most of the present time. This is not the time to go back. This is not the time to be so focused on the end result that we miss the lessons and the revelation in the present. So right now, you got to get with God and say, God, what will you have me to do right now? What is it that during this season that things have drastically changed? God, show me. What can I be working on while I'm here? And like I said, God has showed me a lot. I got things organized in my house. Like I said, I'm going through my budget and really about to do some major work to what I spend my money on. I'm looking at things, getting a schedule together for me and the kids so we can get done all we need to do, trying to find that balance between work and play. And so all of these things are happening right now. They're all happening in live time because I'm staying present. I'm not focused on, Lord, when are you going to answer this prayer? Lord, when is this virus going to be over? When is this need going to be met? What I'm focused on is, God, what do you need me to do right now? Help me to receive every lesson that you have for me in this season. Help me to receive every correction that you have for me in this season. Help me to receive every revelation that you have for me in this season, because I don't want to miss a thing. I don't want to have to relive it because I didn't learn it when I had the opportunity. So I'm here right now and I'm saying, expose me, change me, correct me, free me, cover me, protect me, and love me, because I'm here. Stay present. Stay present in the moment. You have all the time in the world to figure everything out. God has already determined the end date for this virus. He's already determined the end date for whatever personal trial you are going through. Whatever it is that you need, that he said he was going to provide, he has already provided the date for that. So God isn't out looking on a calendar and saying, when am I going to do this? No, he's already done it. He's already planned it. But while we're in it, we need to make sure that we're getting all the knowledge and the wisdom and the discipline and the correction and everything else that God is giving us in this season so that we can grow and mature and be able to move forward in the next season. So I can't say, God, please look at my finances. God, help me to be a better steward of my finances if I don't take time to look at them and to reevaluate them. If I don't look at the choices that I've made and said, okay, this is where I need to make some changes. I need to repent here. I need to make a better choice here. If I don't actually look at it, it's not going to get better. And you're going to remain in the same problem. And so if you don't take the time to examine yourself in this season and to ask God to show you whatever it is he needs to show you, you can miss the mark. And you can end up being in the storm longer than you needed to. Prime example, today, I've been in my house, the last couple weeks, I had a smoke detector that was beeping. And my ceilings on the third floor of my house are high voltage. I'm only 5 feet. I don't have a ladder. I can't reach it, right? And so it's been so annoying hearing this beeping, and it beeps on the minute. So every minute it would go beep, every minute. And so I called the fire department and they said, listen, we're not making any house calls unless there's a fire due to the virus. So I'm like, okay, so for like 3 weeks now, I have been, it might be longer, I've been dealing with this beeping noise and it's been driving me insane. So I'm muting myself in meetings. When I'm doing the radio show, I can hear it and I'm praying y'all don't hear it. And so finally I reached out And I reached out to a neighbor because I haven't lived so long. I don't know too many people here. And so I reached out to a neighbor and I was like, hey, do you have a ladder? And the neighbor said, no, I don't have a ladder. But you know what? I'm going to send my husband over. Maybe he can help you. So he comes over to help. And guess what? I so happened to go into my garage. And guess what's in the garage? A daggone ladder. My dad had left the ladder here. He didn't even remember it was here. I didn't even remember it was here. So all these weeks that I have been sitting listening to this annoying sound of a beeping of a smoke detector that needed to be changed, I only needed the ladder to get to it to change it. And the ladder was here all along. But it wasn't until I went and actually looked that I found it. So imagine if I would have looked in the garage the first day that I was here, that the beeping started. I could have had 3 weeks of not having to deal with this beep. But because I didn't look or look thorough enough, and because I didn't take the time to get to the root of the problem and to look at the resources that are around me that can help, there's all this time that I could have not had to have been dealing with that. So it's the same in our personal life. We can say, God, I'm tired of being broke. God, I'm tired of these toxic friendships and relationships. God, I'm tired of this. I'm tired of that. But until we take the time to do the work, to actually fully examine the situation, look for resources around you, and be willing to do something new and to make some changes, we are just spinning in circles. And God is not always going to come in and just remove something. Sometimes the lesson is going through it. And so if you're not willing to examine anything, then things are not going to change. I had to have a hard talk with myself. Like, listen, boo, you're a really disciplined person, but this area of your life, this eating, you got to get that together. You need to get that together. The amount of that you're spending in groceries and ordering food before and going to get food when, stores and stuff were open is ridiculous. You need to make some change. You know how to cook, plan, have your actual budget where you can make time to enjoy, those things that you like every once in a while, but not all day, every day. I had to take that moment and check myself and just say, listen, you're doing well, but you could be doing better if this area of your life had more discipline. Get it together. You need to be working out more. Get it together. The workouts are online. You just need to plan your day out. Get up earlier if you need to, or stay up later. You just need to get it done. So I've been using this time, instead of focusing all of my energy on what is the outcome going to be, when is this going to be over? When are the things that I'm praying for going to happen? I'm using my present time to work on me so that when the prayer is answered, I'm more mature, so that I can actually handle it. It would be awful if I'm praying, Lord, keep me disciplined, but I'm not actually being disciplined or even getting any accountability to be disciplined. And then I get to the next phase and I'm still undisciplined. So then it's unsuccessful and I'm in the same place. So this is the time to pay attention. Pay attention. Stay present. Focus on what God is telling you to focus on. And we all have something. He has slowed all of us down. He has changed our normal because he wants to get everybody's attention. And it doesn't necessarily mean for the same reason. Maybe he just wants you to spend time with him and in his word. Maybe it's that you need to reconnect with your family. Maybe it's that you need to reprioritize in some other area. Maybe he gave you a business idea and this is the season to launch. Maybe he gave you a book or an album or artwork or whatever, and this is the time to do it. Maybe he gave you the rest that you've been praying for, and this is the time to rest. Whatever it is, take the time to know why you're in this season, and Lord, what can I do now? The end will come when it's supposed to, but what can I do now so that when the next season starts, I'm prepared? You prepare before you get there, not when you get there. I'm going to give you another prime example before we switch into the second half of the show. I'm super excited. I have 2 amazing guests that are going to be joining us really, really soon. But let's check this out. So last weekend, Y'all watching on Instagram? Are y'all watching these battles? So I am a music lover. And when I tell you, the thing that has gotten me through this is all the amazing music that has been happening. DJ D-Nice is like next level, listening to his, mixes, listening to artists that are giving free concerts and different things. It's been wonderful. So of course, the battle of Teddy Riley and Babyface. And even if you don't even know who they are, you probably have seen the memes. And so I'm going to give you the short. The short is, you had one person, Babyface, he was by himself. He was in his studio area of his house or wherever, and he was ready to go. Teddy Riley, who, again, equally as talented. Both of these are incredible artists that have done major things for music. Teddy Riley has a sound person. He's got other people there. He's got all these instruments and all these different things, right? So now we're ready to start the battle. Well, he's got all of the bells and whistles, but nothing is working right. The feedback is, off. And so it was just a mess. And so, it was a lot of going back and forth, and his things weren't working. Babyface was ready. He was fine. And so at the end of the first time this happened, they just said, listen, we're going to cancel it. We're going to reschedule because it's not working, right? No more than 5 minutes after that, DJ D-Nice, who had already done his usual Saturday club quarantine, is what he calls it, set, came back on live and played all Babyface and Teddy Riley songs that they performed and songs that they produced. And it was amazing. I stayed up till 1 a.m. on Saturday, jamming, listening to this music, right? And so the thought that came to mind, though, is a few things. Will Smith used to have this quote that says, if you stay ready, you don't have to get ready. So Babyface was prepared. He had everything that he needed, right? DJ D-Nice wasn't even planning on getting back on live, but saw a need that needed to be filled and was prepared and was ready, right? Teddy Riley, I'm sure he did sound checks. He's a producer. He's a world-renowned producer. So I'm certain that he did all kinds of things to prepare for this show. But something clearly didn't work somewhere, right? And so he wasn't prepared. So all this time, we spent 30 minutes just watching him trying to get prepared, whereas everybody else was prepared. And then when he was unable to do the job, DJ Nice came in and did the job on Saturday night, and it was phenomenal. It was like 60-some thousand people that watched. So the first part of that is you need to know your lane and being prepared. Whatever God has called you to do, be prepared. And sometimes less is more. Keep it simple. Adhere to what God told you to do. You don't always have to do the big thing. When I go to speaking engagements, I don't need an entourage of people. I don't even always need my makeup to be professionally done and my hair to be fresh out the salon. I don't always need that. What I need is a word that I have gotten and received from God. What I need, that to me is most. So yes, I'm going to make sure I'm looking presentable. And yes, I'm going to make sure I'm in decency and order. But my focus is not that. I don't want to have the best dress, but I don't have no word to share. I don't want to have my face beat and my hair done and my nail, everything is looking good, but I'm not saying anything. So for me, my preparation is in, Lord, what is it that you will have me to say? What is it that you will have me to do? Even now, we're at home. I, had thought about creating this whole background. I was like, you know what? Less is more. What I need right now is to share what God has given me. And that was my focus. And so be prepared, and be prepared at any time. If you're called to sing, that means you're called to sing at any time, not just the time you planned it. There could be a moment that needs a song. You need to be prepared. If you are a writer, you may be called to write outside of your planned time. You've got to be prepared. If you're a speaker or a preacher or a teacher, you may get called into the unknown. And so you need to know what your call is. You need to spend time preparing and honing your call so that you can be prepared to deliver your call at any moment. So if you look at our world right now, look at all the industries that had to change everything about what they do on the fly. And you are seeing the industries that are thriving, and you are seeing the ones that are not. So you look at all these restaurants, right? They had to on the fly. If they didn't have delivery service, they had to get delivery service. If they, they had to quickly change. And guess what? They're still adjusting, right? They probably still took some losses, but they're still adjusting. They're still managing, right? But think about the businesses that didn't have a plan, wasn't prepared for the unexpected, didn't, know what to do. And guess what? Their businesses are completely done now because there is no alternate. So you got to take time. And of course, you're not going to know everything. You can't prepare for every, possible thing that happens, but being prepared and being knowledgeable in your craft matters so that you can then be able to change. Look at how DJ D Nice, I did not know who he was prior to this. Now, I'm sure he probably is a well-known DJ, but I'm someone that I don't really go to clubs. And so I probably wouldn't have known him, but I know him now. And I make a point now to follow him. And I know on Saturday nights, I'm going to turn on his routine so I can hear his music. So I can imagine when the quarantine and all of this is over, his personal business and his personal brand is going to skyrocket. He He's going to be booked probably years in advance because he took a situation, he was prepared, and he had 100,000 people at one point on his listening live. He had Michelle Obama listening and Mariah Carey, all kinds of people listening. And now we live for that. Now other DJs are now coming in and trying to do something similar because he kind of hopped in there and he made it happen. So what I'm saying to you is, in this season, if God is giving you something and this is your time, you got to move. And you got to be willing to make some changes. You know, look at church. So if you didn't have a live streaming service prior to this, pandemic, you either got one and you are continuing to have church and you're streaming live on Facebook or on whatever, or you didn't get one and you are no longer having service. Right? You've got to be willing to move and shift and change. As educators, Lord knows this teaching life is not what I envisioned I would be doing. And I can't wait in a second half to talk a little bit more about it. But we had to learn on the fly how to shift to meet our current need. So my question for you is, in the thing that God has given you, do you have enough preparation? Are you humble enough? Are you flexible enough to be willing to shift things and make necessary changes and adjustments as needed? Or are you going to crumble and die? That is where we are in certain parts of our lives. If we can't shift, right? So it's just like, when I was a kid, computers were coming up. And yes, it was common to have them, but you didn't need to have one. You know what I mean? You could, go to the library. You could, you didn't need it all the time. Whereas nowadays, you need some type of technology to do just about everything. And so if you were one of those people that was like, technology is not my thing and I don't want to learn it, you're probably struggling right now because everything due to this pandemic has shifted online. So now we're not going to pick up things, and now you're going to have to learn how to order something using your card and have it shipped to your house and, and those kind of things. So everything has shifted. If technology is not your thing, it's going to have to become your thing because things have shifted. So we've got to be willing to be flexible in this season. We've got to be willing to be humble in this season. And that means asking for help. Listen, I have a 13-year-old child. I'm 33. He's 13. And I think that I'm pretty tech savvy, but there are things that happen and I have to humble myself and say, hey, Quince, can you come and show me how to do this? Can you walk me through this other thing? Can you help me fix this? Because I don't know it all. I have to humble myself. I'm often confused because in the education setting, things are changing on a daily basis. So 1 minute they're telling us we need to do one thing, and literally later that day, something has come out and we're changing it. And so I find myself asking the same questions over and over again. But I've had to humble myself and just say, listen, I don't understand and I'm confused. Yes, I'm a smart woman, but I'm confused. So you've got to humble yourself and be willing to shift and make adjustments in this season. I'm telling you, your life will be better when you are prepared. I think of now the people that are losing their lives unexpectedly. Were they prepared? Were their final arrangements put together? Did they have life insurance? Did they have an inheritance for their family? I'm about preparing, not just for the today and preparing for what's in front of me right now, but preparing for the future as well. Looking and investing and saving and and just looking into quality time with my kids. Here's the thing. I know all the schoolwork is there and we're trying to get done because we want our kids to learn. But this is also a time that we have with our children that we will never get back. I was thinking about it. My oldest son is going to high school this fall. So 4 years and he is done his K-12 studies. And that hit me of like, my time with him as I know it is changing. And it's dwindling, and things are changing. So I need to make the most out of now. So be present, be prepared, ask God to reveal to you what he wants you to learn right now in this season, and trust that the end is already predetermined by God. So we need to stay focused on the present. The present is what develops the future. I pray you were blessed by that. Momentarily, we are going to have not one, but 2 guests. So I am so excited. Listen, in my humble opinion, I believe that I went to the best middle school ever in the United States. Mayfield Woods Middle School, Columbia, Maryland. Shout out to them. Is, in my opinion, the best school ever, best middle school ever. And social media is a beautiful thing because if you use it well, it will allow you to reconnect with people that you may have lost connection with. And one is here now. I'm so excited. Hi, Miss Skelton.
Hello, Whitney Hogans, formerly Lyles. How are you, Miss?
I am great. How are you?
All right. It's so great to see you again.
It is so good to see you. I know Mr. Millard is going to be joining us momentarily.
He will. He was not as punctual as I am. I'll get that shot in before he gets on.
I know. I was going to say, you're taking your jab, so I'm excited. I know it's going to be a fun time. And so I was just sharing that, in my opinion, Mayfield Woods is the best middle school in the United States. I loved 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. Most people hate middle school. I loved middle school.
Oh my goodness. And you know what? It was funny, just talking on a personal level. You were somebody, it was clear how you loved middle school. Like, you loved to be at school, the interactions that you have with students and with adults. Like, that's what stood out about you. That was real easy to see the love you had for people and for education. It was there the whole time. So it doesn't surprise me that you're doing big things right now.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Yes, I love school, and I am it's crazy that I have a child in middle school now. So I'm struggling because it's making me feel real old right now, but it's all good. But let's just hop in. I know Mr. Millard will join us in just a second. So right now, first tell us what you do currently, because when you were teaching English at Mayfield, what are you doing right now?
Right. Well, I was at Mayfield Woods. There he is. I was at Mayfield Woods for 8 years.
I love it.
Showing you up. Old school. That's right. Sorry.
Straight English there for 8 years. After leaving Mayfield, my wife and I just decided to move homes and life situations. So we moved to Harford County, and I currently have been teaching at Bel Air High School. I teach 11th grade English, and I've been doing that for 16 years. So it's 24 total.
Amazing. And Mr. Millard, my favorite math teacher of all time.
Hello, Miss Whitney Hogan.
Yes. What are you doing now?
I work for a company called Camelot Education. I lead up their strategic team for national initiatives. So I'm in education still, but I'm supporting education, supporting great people like the both of you. So I'm excited to be here with you.
Let me say this too. So when my first year teaching, I remember you reaching out to me and saying, congratulations on teaching. What are you teaching? And I don't even remember what I taught that year. I think it was 4th grade. And you sent me a gift. So listen, if you know of teachers, we pay for everything, right? We pay for everything. And in elementary world, the biggest thing you need is a classroom library, right? You want to have a great amount of books for your kids to read, but they are so expensive. And so I was struggling to put mine together, and you sent me a library that I still have. It's still in my classroom.
Good.
And I was just so thankful that you always made sure I had cool supplies and cool things. So I'm thankful for that. So let's hop in and let's just talk about what's happening right now. So obviously, education as a whole, we've needed to make some changes, in my opinion, anyway, but I never thought we would change like this. So talk to me a little bit from your perspectives, and either can go first. What do you think, how do you think education is going to be impacted total by what's happening right now with COVID-19?
Dwayne, you want to go first?
Every negative has a positive.
Yes.
And so, like you just said, there are a lot of positives in this change. It's going to force people to get out of their comfort zone. Mm-hmm. It's going to force people to start doing things that have been talked about ideologically for a long time. And now we won't have a choice but to change. And hopefully some of the things that hinder teachers doing more, you guys already do a lot, but there are certain things that you want to do in class that you haven't been able to implement for ABC reasons. Mm-hmm. I think this is going to force dramatic change. I mean, one of the obvious ones is it is going to force everyone to think about blended learning. It's going to force everyone to think about how do we actually create one-on-one dynamics of student learning experiences. It's going to force you to rethink what engagement looks like, because now it's hard to be engaged equally when you're talking like this and having those students physically in front of you.
Right.
So you have to work that muscle stronger digitally. Just imagine how powerful it'll be when you're in the building again, teaching students in front of you and having more skill set just based on the adversity that we're facing right now. So there are great things about this situation. We just have to embrace it.
Yeah. What do you think, Mr. Scouten?
I think from what I've seen, I'm being an educator, my wife is an educator as well. I think the first thing is that it has exposed a lot of holes that we have in the way the system is structured. The fact that we can't move over to digital learning more seamlessly is something that people are going to have to look at. Now, we've never had a reason to look at it before. We never thought we'd be in a situation where we were in our homes, talking to students in their homes.
Right.
But we do have, technologically, we are in a place where we should be able to do this. This shouldn't be as difficult as it has been. Yeah. And we're getting better and better. But I think that once things return to normal, so to speak, I think that I'll bet you next year, Whitney, I'll bet you 80% of your professional development days are going to go towards how do we handle something like this.
Yeah.
And a student, for example, just really quick, easy example, a student who is absent from school one day shouldn't have to come into my class and say, I wasn't here yesterday. What did I miss? And now I have to go through that.
Right.
Like in college, you should be able to go to Blackboard or any of these programs and pick up the PowerPoint they missed, the whatever work there may have been. There should be accessible everywhere in this day and time.
I could not agree more. What were you going to say, Mark?
Just to building on what Dr. Scouten was saying, the guy who gave me the book that I still haven't returned to you. This is also going to expose a lot of equity issues.
Yes.
Yep.
You think about the challenge in all communities of not having adequate connectivity, technology. If you have a computer, do you have more than one? Have you been built up to know how to use technology for the purpose of learning, which goes back to how important the schools are going to be to the community. I mean, we've always talked about schools and community, but now you have to be connected to the community because of the situation that we're dealing with.
Absolutely. And I'm so glad you brought up equity, because I know, I'm in this group actually on Facebook. It's a private group for teachers, and it's from teachers from all over the United States. And someone posted in there, and their question was, did you have to buy new technology to teach online? Like, since we've been home, have you had to buy a new laptop or whatever? And my initial thought was, that's interesting because we have laptops, right? So the county that I teach in, they provide every teacher with a laptop. So I didn't even think about if you're in a county that doesn't provide that and you don't have it, or you don't have an updated one, how is that going to work for you? And then even for my own home, you know, we're blessed that my dad at the beginning of this said, you know what, I'm going to go ahead and buy you another laptop so that each person in your house has a laptop, so you guys can all work at the same time. So, but that's me being blessed to have that support, because I'm a single parent. I wouldn't have been able to do it right now on my own. But think of our families that have multiple children and don't have the technology, or they're just trying to survive. So my day-to-day is trying to make sure we have enough food on the table. I don't have time to think about a computer because I'm working to live. I'm trying to make sure our lights stay on. And so I do think the equity issue has been hugely broadcasted, that there is a major difference between groups. Talk to me a little bit, though, about one particular population that I'm concerned about, and I might be a little partial, is our students that receive special education services as well as ELL services, where even when they are in school with all the resources that we provide, they still have a unique set of challenges. What are some of the things that you think we can do, or challenges that they will face with this new set of learning?
That's a great question. And I think more than anything, and maybe this isn't a direct answer to your question, but I think if nothing else, if you don't appreciate your special educators after this,
listen. Flowers.
I mean, honestly, people are looking at this and now they're like, you know, the things that I used to knock the school system for being able to do or not being able to do, the accommodations I fought for, sometimes the insults that I hurled or insinuated at people. And now I'm the one charged with teaching my child under these circumstances. And there's not even 10 other kids in the room. You know what I mean? If you can imagine that. I think if nothing else, and again, maybe not a direct answer to your question, but I think if nothing else, because I have friends with students that receive services, and they're like, look, this is way harder than I thought. I can't get my son to sit down and, you know, and read this page. I have no idea how they do it in school with all the distractions that swirl around the classroom.
Yeah, and in agreement, it's going to be a challenge. I was on a call, I think it was yesterday, because now my day is 168 hours straight. So maybe it was the day before. I was in a call with a bunch of special education leaders, and they just were talking about the impact that they've seen in the distance learning. And one of the other sides, the flip side, Whitney, is what they've seen is they're seeing a stronger appreciation from the general education teachers, because now they have to have a blended learning online type of a scenario. What I mean by that is the resources that special education typically would push in to a classroom. Now it's becoming more apparent, not only the need for those services, but some of the benefits of the skill set that special education has that can benefit more than special education students. So I think it opens up a door for really it's multiple learning models that everyone's going to have to learn. And again, this challenge is going to force people to think about that. It's like, you know, how am I going to reach a student with certain situations? So back to what you said earlier, Mr. Skelton, we're going to have to learn how to teach, how to reach differently. And so we just have to be open to the fact that we are in an imperfect environment, and we have to be comfortable of our competence and take risks and reflect so we can get better as a system and really sharing information. Because if we're not sharing information now, we're not going to be able to overcome these gaps soon enough when fall comes and all the kids are back in some sort of a normal. It won't be the normal, but it'll be the new normal, but it won't be this.
Right. I think it's important too for transparency. And, you know, I think that if we are all working together, so that's the educators, the families, and the community, if we are all working together and being transparent and honest with each other, we can meet the needs of our kids. I have no doubt about that. I think about my own son, when he was diagnosed with autism 8 years ago, we were told he was nonverbal, he would never speak. That was it. We started learning sign language. We were going to get a communication device. And then 2 months later, my husband died. And I remember working with a teacher, and she said to me, a speech language pathologist, actually, she said to me, I noticed that Kevin, will not engage with us at all. But whenever there is music and we're singing, he pays attention. So let's try singing to him. And that's how Kevin learned how to speak. We sang everything, but because she was willing, to share something and try something new. And as a parent, I wasn't combative to that. I was willing to try it new and guess maybe it would work, maybe it wouldn't work. Now we're looking at Kevin, who is singing on the chorus at his school, who's talking and getting on my nerves with what he says. But it took a whole team Kevin approach. And I think that if we in the education system will be willing to take that approach with community members and also with families, if everybody invested and put egos aside and all of that and just said, these are the needs, I think we would be in a better place.
And to what you just said, I mean, I connected the learning models because really what it's forcing everyone to think about is it's think about we often get caught up in thinking that this is what success looks like, and this is what successful learning looks like. And we really have more diverse learning styles than we give credit to in our process of trying to reach students. And it's not the fault of anyone because, you're one person in the class with 25 students. I'm thinking about general education, or 12 students with diverse needs. But the bottom line is we have to always remind ourselves that, people learn in different ways, and we may think it's unique, but it really isn't. It's just different. There really shouldn't just be everything to the middle. We have to find a way to reach the broad spectrum of learning styles.
Yeah. And hopefully as we're developing this model on the fly, hopefully we can speak more to that, of that your grade doesn't determine your ability, it's your performance. It's so for me, when I'm looking at my kids' grades, I'm looking at, did you put your best effort in? I'm looking at, did you understand? Because I know how to pass a class. Like I took classes in grad school and I probably aced the class and can't tell you nothing about it because I just know how to pass a class.
Right.
Does that make sense? But did I retain the information? No.
Yes.
But then the classes that were meaningful to me that I'll always remember is because of the experience. And so we have to create that experience in the classroom, and now we have to create it online. So I wanted to ask you guys this question. What do you think, or what are some practical tips that we can give to parents that are now, not by choice, kind of forced into this distance learning? What are some things that we can give them to help them?
I'll let you go first.
I would say first, understand that none of us know 100%. There is no blueprint for this.
Right.
There is no way this should be done. There's no, it's kind of like, to me, it's kind of like trying to be a father through the social media age. I mean, my parents didn't have to go through this. I don't know what this should look like. So try and fail some days and succeed others. But know that you're doing fine. If you sit down with your kid and go through what it is they're trying to learn and what they're trying to accomplish, and you're sitting there with them, you're succeeding. You're succeeding.
Yes.
And just understand that we're all trying to figure this out. All of us are trying to figure this out. And so I would tell parents, don't be so rough on yourself.
Yeah.
And I hope that, honestly, I'm going to get my little dig in again. I hope that it gives some appreciation for what others have to go through. When kids get on the bus, I mean, the bus driver has a hard job. The cafeteria monitor has a hard job. Obviously, the classroom teacher, so on and so forth. So I hope some people realize, my kid's not as easy as I thought they might be when I was, questioning this person's competence or what somebody else was doing.
Yeah. And I'm going to repeat what you said, because I think it's they have to give themselves a break and not hold themselves up to the same accountability that was expected of the teacher and of the school system. I mean, you can't replicate what you guys do at home with multiple kids and still having to work, especially. You just can't do it, and so don't put that pressure on yourself. I would say, really going back to Whitney, where you were going as far as what you remember and what you don't remember, being able to pass a class and pass a test is one thing, but being able to remember what you learned and apply it is more important. And so the question is, what can you expose your kids to that's going to help them to have more background when they go to school? You can even sit and watch a program on PBS on something of interest to them, or find out what they're interested. If they're interested in basketball, what can you play or learn with them that's going to teach them about, I'm going to do my math thing, arcs and everything that you would do mathematically as far as projections. There's so many different ways that you can learn. So instead of parents thinking about being a replacement of teachers, arm your kids with exposure so that it's easier for your teachers to reach them when they come back to school.
Absolutely. I think experience over content right now.
Yes,
and, if I just to give my own advice as an educator, I feel the same as you guys. I think that we need to just remember that we are in a pandemic. This is not something this was not all the school systems saying we're going to try out something new. Like, we are in the midst of a worldwide crisis. And so this is a moment that our kids will never forget, that we will never forget. For me, that life-defining moment might have been 9/11, right? I was in high school when that happened. Yeah. So I'll remember who I was before then, and I will always remember that day. This is that for most of our kids. This moment is that for them. Do we really want their memory from this to be, and I did these math problems with my mom, or is it that we want it to be, my older son, we started cooking. Who knew he could cook? But we use the time, we try, and we can incorporate math into that. Yeah. Then we can write about what we did, afterward. We can read an article and have a meaningful discussion. I'm learning him in a way that I haven't been able to really pay attention to him in this way because the opportunity hasn't been there. We're always on the go. So it's finding what your kids do well. Yes. And then exposing them to things. So if they can do this skill well, that can also be incorporated into something else. And as parents, I think we need to look beyond, you need to earn this letter grade or you need to be here. We need to look at the skill. So my son was interested in multimedia. He ended up becoming a producer here on the show. Those skills he can use in science. Those skills he can use in other places. So I think this is the time to focus, in my opinion, a little less on the curriculum, but more on content and development of our kids. Yes. The other stuff will come. We'll get it.
Agree. Totally agree.
One other thing that I wanted to ask you guys as our show is quickly going by is, how are you finding the balance with what we're doing now? Because I know I'm struggling, just being honest. I'm trying to work schedules of I teach 3 grades, as a special educator. So I'm trying to manage 3 grades plus my children's grades. And it's a lot to take in. So what are some things that you guys are doing just to maintain everything that you have going on and trying to keep your family safe?
I'm going to go last only because I think I'm in the most beneficial situation that all of my kids, my youngest is in college. So I don't worry about her. She's good. The rest of work. So I'm just here. I'm all empathy.
So I just want to be clear on what the question is. What are we doing to maintain the balance of being an educator and being a parent? And
just for some of our family members, our families that are listening that are working from home and trying to manage kids, like what are some tips that you can give them?
I would, much to Mr. Millard's point, I have it so good. Like, honestly, I have three daughters, and they're in all 3 levels. I have an elementary school, a middle school, and a high school daughter. We do have a laptop for everyone to work at the same time. We have a lot of space in the house where they can spread out, and everybody kind of claims a room. We have a schedule. And I'll say this knowing that, again, I started by saying that I have it a little bit better, I think, than most, but we have a schedule that we keep. And the fact that I'm at home, as is my wife, allows us to keep that schedule. So my daughters know. The first thing I would say, and I said this to my best friend today, he was telling me that that his son wasn't getting out of bed until the afternoon. For us, the girls know, like, we are 10 o'clock to 12 o'clock is academic time.
Yes.
And I had, my middle schooler told me last week, she said, I'm done. I don't have anything else. I said, well, here's a book. And I handed her one to get down. But 12 o'clock to 1 o'clock is lunch and free time. And then 1 to 2 is self-improvement. 2 to 3 is home improvement. And home improvement means grab a rake.
Something. Yeah.
And the give is that the weekends belong to you. You can sleep all day on the weekends, whatever. But we still have a regular school day that happens. Now, granted, it's a condensed school day, but I also understand there are people that don't have the resources that I have, at my disposal, and their kids, won't just sit and, maybe go to work in the way that my daughters will. So that's tough. But I would say if you can implement a schedule that you can enforce and ride that schedule, even though it's going to be really inconvenient for you.
And then I would say, I see a lot of people in my company with children going through being two worlds at the same time. And to the schedule, I try to encourage, you don't have to hold yourself to the same schedule as the school system. Again, they're competing against trying to replicate what their children were doing before this all happened. And that, I think, sets you up for constant frustration.
Yeah.
So, you have to give yourself some lax. And to your point, Whitney, you really have to be creative. I mean, don't try to do everything that is done in school. Do things that are going to support school. But from my perspective, what I had to remember, so I would ask parents to make sure that the people that are holding you responsible for work remember that you have children and work. Because I actually, with one person that I work with, I was scheduling different calls, and she was having a conflict with the calls I was scheduling, Zoom calls for work versus the schedule for the kids. And so I realized that, okay, I'm not thinking about it because it just doesn't happen to be a part of my world. So I need to be more conscious that people are going through this. So, it's okay to let someone know or remind them of your world space right now, because this is abnormal for everyone.
Absolutely. I could not agree.
When we set the schedule at our house, like I said, our academic time was 10 to 12. Part of the give and take of it was my daughters didn't want to get up at regular school time. They didn't want to get up early. It can be 10 o'clock or it can be 10:30. Part of the discussion was, should it be, I don't know, 1 o'clock in the afternoon? And so I would agree with Mr. Millard in that you can be creative and set and decide what works for you and do that. Because as long as you're doing something, as long as you are interacting and experiencing education with your child, you're doing it right.
Absolutely.
That's almost like a college setting. It's like a college schedule.
It is. So in actuality, it's a good preparation, right?
You can set up a quad in the backyard so they can go out and watch the TV out there or something.
It is. And I just, whatever schedule works for you, just be consistent. So whatever it is that you put together that works for you, just be consistent. We know our kids do thrive with some type of structure and routine and consistency, but it's not going to be school. So make it fun, as fun as you can be. So now I want to switch gears. We only have 3 minutes left. So now we got to talk about Mayfield, because it's my favorite place. So I want each of us to share one of our favorite Mayfield moments. I am so impressed that you have that shirt. You have no idea. So real quick, think of one thing that you loved about Mayfield Woods.
If you don't mind. So I'll go first, Kelton?
Yeah.
So moments. There were too many great moments. I'll name 2 because I'll be quick though. One's in school and one's in school, out of school. 6th grade camp was one of my favorite experiences.
I knew
Outdoor ed was the greatest. you know, because you guys didn't know, but we were young and we wanted to like, you know, just scare you guys and do everything and anything we could to upset your normal. And it was just so fun with the other teachers seeing what we could do to like rattle you. So, you know, those were always fun moments. Secondly, it was, you know, if you talk about balance and so I remember being in class and, you know, as a teacher, management is obviously extremely important in order for you to get instruction to happen. And I remember when I had a relationship with my class well enough where we could sit and we could listen to music while we're working on math problems. So we'd have like Mary J. Blige playing in the background and everybody's still doing their algebra. And like we could just like, you know, sit like you're at home doing your homework with the music on, and I didn't have to worry about the music taking away from you, all of us doing what we needed to do to get better.
Awesome.
Loved it.
All right, Mr. Skelton. Mayfield, tell us.
My favorite Mayfield moment, this is going to sound like maybe I'm not answering your question, but for me, my favorite memories of Mayfield are made when I see what you guys have turned into today. That's what makes me feel the best. I loved that job. It was a great job. But when I see you guys out and doing huge things, shout out to Michael Smelkinson.
Yes,
I saw Brendan Nick. I saw Avon a couple months back. When I see people that are living just great lives, I see you know, Brian Taylor, father of four, you know, whatever, and that's what I look at that and I go, you know what, Mayfield really set the stage, I feel, for them to move on and do that kind of stuff.
Yes. Totally. And I'm just so thankful to you guys just for your impact in my life at Mayfield. Like I said, I loved middle school and I enjoyed it. Those were some of the best years. Most people dread those years, but I did. And so I just want to thank you guys just for being amazing at what you do and who you are, but also for coming on my show and reconnecting.
And I know I speak for Dwayne when I say that now the student has become the teacher.
That's right.
That's beautiful.
Yes. Thank you guys so much.
I appreciate your resilience, your success, and your accomplishments. You are an amazing person. So thanks for inviting us. We're happy to be here for you.
Yes. All right. So again, I told y'all Mayfield was the best middle school ever. So in closing, thank you to everybody tuning in. Thank you to Mr. Skelton. Thank you to Mr. Millard. I hope you guys got some great gifts and, you know, nuggets of wisdom to navigate through this season. And I hope that everyone has a blessed weekend. You stay safe. You stay healthy. In closing, she thinks, she feels, she cries, she prays, she trusts, she overcomes, and ultimately she heals. This is the She Heals Radio Show with your host, Whitney J. Have a beautiful weekend, and we will see you back here next Friday. Take care, and God bless.
I'll get you that book, Dr. Skelton.
All good.